It's time for Push2Plat, your weekly trophy podcast with Mindy and CJ.
Hey, what's up? Thanks for joining us for episode 27 of Push2Plat. Be you whoever you are. I'm mixing up the intro today on Mindy's behest. And look, I'm charged up and I'm ready. If you're in Australia today, and we're recording this as a Friday, you'll know that the weather is absolutely dreadful. It is raining here, it's windy, it's cold, it's like the perfect time to be gaming. So I don't know what we're doing here, doing a podcast about gaming, when we should be gaming. But we're going to do it anyway. So, Mindy, how are you today?
I'm surprised your internet's working if it's that bad.
Look, so am I, The mouse is running so fast on the wheel at the moment, that poor guy's head's going to explode, I think, at some point. But, it is what it is. What can we do? Yeah. How are you today?
I'm good. This is quite a bit later than we usually record. For me,
it is very late, yes, yeah. And look, and that is in honor of our guest today, listeners. We're lucky enough to be joined by Chernobylninja, one half of the PlatCast Podcast, the PlatCast Podcast. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing okay. Thanks for having me on, and letting me record to such a late hour for everybody. Well, not you, CJ. It's pretty like in the afternoon, right?
Yeah, you're like the perfect guest. This is sort of like, the 2:45 in the afternoon. Yeah, no, you're welcome anytime. So, so can I hijack it for a second, Mindy? Just, while you drink some tea and just you acclimatize to what we're doing today. And I
do have some very lovely tea right now.
Yeah, do you? Is it really tea?
It's like, yes, it's tea. It's like an almond oolong. It's very nice.
Wow, that's not pretentious at all, is it, listeners? Okay. So Dylan, can I just throw some questions at you, because we're going to do like a dive into your gaming history and all that sort of stuff. But look, I want to ask you first. Yeah, you're a podcaster.
Yeah.
Good. Excellent. Good move. Can I ask you, what do you like about it? What draws you to podcasting? Why do it?
It is a creative outlet that I don't typically get at my job now. I work in production, mostly news production, so I'm used to being around radio equipment and filming equipment and TV equipment, and I've always liked to do like a podcast. I mean, well, in college we toyed around with an idea of doing a roundtable podcast about gaming. It was called Joysticking. It lasted 4 episodes because we had way too many people on it all the time.
Going to say too many guests or just too many hosts?
There was probably 4 of us that were hosts, but we would always have people from we had like a video game club in college. And so we would just bring random people on. And I think the last episode, it was like we had 9 or 10 people, and it was just too much. And then trying to manage that many people, or trying to manage 4 people's schedules, is ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true, isn't it? And there's always one person that just bangs on and on and on, isn't there, Mindy? It's dreadful.
Is that a rhetorical question?
Of course. I was referring to myself there, listeners.
Yes, I know, but I was being diplomatic.
So, Dylan, can I ask you, also being a podcaster, what is something you really dislike about it?
I guess really sometimes recording process itself, because of the scheduling. I work second shift at my job now, so I normally get home at midnight. I go to bed at 6 a.m. I wake up at 2. And my co-host Zach is a early bird. He gets up at like 6 a.m., 7 a.m. to go to work, and he's done with the day at like 4 or 5. And so he's always like, "Hey, can we record at noon?" And I'm like, "Yeah." That's me getting up at like 4 a.m. if I typically get up at 6. But I'm like, yeah, let me just get these old bones out of the bed and I'll make it there.
You and I are kindred spirits here.
Yeah, you wouldn't know it. You're always full of energy. So that's impressive. Look, I'm just fishing here. Who does the editing on your podcast?
It's about half-half. Lately I've been doing.
Don't tell him that, because then I'm gonna have to learn how to audio edit.
Lately it's been I'll do a rough edit. I'll cut out all the the spaces, because Zach has all the assets, like the theme song and the transitions are all on his end, and he'll put those in. He'll do a cleanup, and then he'll publish it, because he publishes it through SoundCloud, and he just does that. So I let him do the final edits and adding the beeps and boops, as we say, and then the raw editing is normally me cutting out a lot of and spaces and all that jazz, that fun stuff.
I don't think any of the listeners that have done this sort of thing before themselves would understand, but it is quite a lot of work editing and stuff like that, and we fit it around everything else, don't we, I suppose. So, it's all part of the fun. Look, we're just changing the order up randomly now, so I'm just going to continue on this path if it's okay. Now, you do more than just podcasts, don't you? You're a streamer as well?
Yeah, I stream sporadically, just based on my schedule. I tried to stream every day after work, but trying to get the American audience to watch you at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning is kind of hard. And a lot of people in our Discord are from the UK, so when I'm streaming at 2 a.m. or something, it's 7 a.m. their time, so it's hard for them to wake up and watch me. So I typically stream on Saturdays when we don't record, which is probably every other Saturday, and I also do an hour-long streaming podcast all about anime. That is just really started, and that's every other week.
Excellent. See, Mindy, it's another high achiever. What are we going to do?
I think we gotta slum it in the coming weeks.
Yeah, look, we're not going to ask this question, so feel free to avoid answering it. But I have a feeling you must be younger than us. You must have more energy. That must be the answer, listeners, to how you do all this as well.
Younger maybe, but more energy. I could almost guarantee you, I don't have any more energy.
How old are you? I'll ask it. How old are you?
I'm 27.
You are younger than us.
I had to count. Yeah, I had to do a count
27.
back.
Who remembers 27? My goodness. Yeah. Okay.
I went to I went to the doctor the other day for just a checkup, and the nurse practitioner was like, "How old are you?" And I had to think about it. I have
to think about it now.
I've hit that age, and I think it's something you hit in your late 20s.
Yeah.
You actually have to. You don't have the immediate answer. You have to pause for a second and go, did I hit 29 or am I still 20? Yeah,
I won't care until I'm 30, because the ending of the year will also match the end of the year that I was born. So it's easy math.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but having to go, all right, if I was born in 92, it's 2019. I must be 27. I have to be, right?
See, I have the opposite problem, but I don't know why. I seem to lie about my age by 1 year. So before I even think, I always say I'm 1 year younger than I am. So I suppose that's my curse to bear. You think at my age, it wouldn't matter about lying anymore, but
yeah,
it is what it is. So look, why don't we jump in? So we've touched, your sort of your podcast and your streaming background. What about your gaming background, Dylan? Would you like to tell our listeners a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I really started when I was my family had a Super Nintendo, and a lot of the older people in my family played it, which I thought was strange, that because they didn't play any other games after that. But so I really started on the Super Nintendo playing Mario, and then I jumped from Nintendo to Nintendo console until really the PlayStation 2 is kind of when I started making more of an effort to buy PlayStation games than Nintendo games. And that's probably because of RPGs, JRPGs, and stuff like that were longer games that I felt like I was getting more money's worth out of the game. Because growing up, I didn't have a lot of money. My family didn't have a lot of money. So longer games meant, it was a justification of my mom being like, oh, this game took you, a month, 2 months to beat. I guess that's worth $30. So I guess a necessity.
Can we take a sidebar there? Sorry, I'm just, in case you don't know, I tend to do this. So if I do it too much, just tell me to shut up. But I want to ask both of you, seeing you brought that up, because I find that in the time we're in now with games, of varying lengths, that as you say, back then, you needed to buy a game that your parents were convinced would take you weeks or months, didn't you? That's how you sold the game. It sounds like it was similar for you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Did you have that as well, Mindy? Or we've never talked about that, but
not really. And I think that's just because I'm the youngest of three. So, I grew up playing the NES and the Super Nintendo, and the NES was my brother's. So, like, I had a huge collection. There's a pretty good collection of games that just my brother had. And by the time you hit your third kid, you're mostly on autopilot. So, they kind of left that alone. I did play a lot of JRPGs on Super Nintendo. I'm right with you there, Dylan. I don't recall ever hearing, it's too expensive, it won't take you very long. I think the other reason is a lot of it came from just like Blockbuster rentals. So it's like, well, who cares how long the game is? It's going to cost me $3 or $4 for the weekend either way.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I just thought I'd bring it up because I remember when we didn't play games when we were children, but on the off chance there was some sort of educational property available on the thing that was a PC, I suppose. At the time, it was considered in the family budget, but not usually purchased. And I'll never forget one day we went to the big department store because in Australia, games are still not cheap, but back then games were, and I understand in the States too, games were very expensive in the early 80s or something. So, and I remember my parents there and they found something and there was this kid there, obviously some computer guru or whatever else, and they said, how long does this take to play or to beat? And he goes, you could do it like in a day or two. And they were just mortified at the cost of it, and it would only take a day or two. But look at me now. Maybe that explains a lot. Yeah
that's also true.
Well, I think the other thing is I never really my parents never really bought me games unless it was like my birthday or Christmas. So that was less of a budgeting thing, because they've already set aside money for the Christmas budget. So it's just part of that, as opposed to, well, here's my monthly budget, and I know he really wants this game that just came out now, but, you never had to work that budget because that was not a thing that happened. Plus, I tended to play the same games a lot over and over again. So it was very rare that I would be like, oh, this is the new big and great thing, and I want it. And by the time I got to that, I was making my own money, Yeah,
well, it's all tied up in that actually having your own income, isn't it? I think. So Dylan, so you're at the Nintendo. Why did you come across? Why did you change? What happened? What went wrong?
I guess because the games started to get cheaper, because I know even when I was a child, an N64 game was still $60 new. So in like 98, 99, that's $60, which is like, that's 60 USD. So that's probably like now it would be like $85. So even then they were super expensive, but the PlayStation games, they weren't on carts. And so they typically were cheaper after a certain amount of time. So I remember my mom was like, well, I can either buy you this one N64 game for your birthday, or I can buy you these 2 PlayStation games for your birthday. And I was like, can I have 2 PlayStation games? So
it's an easy decision for a kid, isn't it?
Yeah.
We don't want quality, we just want more quantity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So when did you, and then you're only a PlayStation gamer now, or do you still play across systems?
Typically, I'd say like 99% of my gaming is done on a PlayStation console, be it the PS3, PS4, or Vita. When I was in college and was able to actually spend some like college return on a nice computer and had the ability to buy games through Steam and actually play them, I played on PC for a long time exclusively. But then I came back to PlayStation mostly to kind of hunt trophies, because I always liked getting achievements in Steam games. And it just once the PS3 or PS4 started getting really good exclusives that I couldn't get on the PC, like the Naughty Dog games, and I was like, I think I want to play PC or play PC less and start playing more on my PlayStation, because these exclusive titles are here, and they honestly felt like movies at the time. They felt like interactive movies.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that were trophies didn't hurt either, as you say.
Yeah, it didn't. Yeah.
So you opened the door on that. What type of trophy hunter are you?
It really depends. Like, I don't like to give up on a game that I can't get the platinum on. Like, it takes a lot for a game to make me go, all right, I quit. Like, you've beaten me. But I typically like to play. I'm not going to play a game that I know I can't get the platinum trophy in. Like I'm not going to play Elder Scrolls Online or something like that, because I know that like the platinum trophy for that is unobtainable to me. It's not unobtainable to anyone else. It's just unobtainable to me. Or a game that's going to take me several hundred hours to do. I don't want to start because I don't have several hundred hours to devote to one game.
You do play a lot of longer games, though.
Yeah, but that's true. But I mean, I think the longest one I've played since we started our podcast, PlatCast, was maybe Dragon Quest XI, and I just couldn't put that game down.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I know we're siphoning off already towards the topic now, listeners, which will be JRPGs this week, but we'll hold off on that a little bit. But I will. It just amuses me because we had resident Daryl on a few weeks ago, and he, through work and family and stuff, as he said, he switches between games and really doesn't have the time to invest too much in longer games. And he went through his list, and then he goes, "Oh, but I am playing Monster Hunter World."
Yeah.
It always amuses me. But anyway, that is what it is. Now, Mindy, I believe we have some questions this week.
Yes, we do. We've had a couple questions. I'm sure they were like, why haven't they been asked yet? Because they came in earlier this month. We have 2 this week because they're fairly short, I think. First one is from Slamma, and he said, with the 4 new colors being announced, what's your favorite DualShock color? So in case you don't know, there's 4 new DualShock colors, like you just said. They're coming, I think, next month. And they are electric purple, red camouflage, titanium blue, and rose gold. I think Slamma is favoring the pink one. Just looking at these myself, I would go for the titanium blue. It's a nice kind of muted blue color.
I like that.
I'm not huge on camouflage controllers. I think they're just...
Yeah.
They would draw my eye too much while I was playing, I think.
Also, you're going to lose them, and they're camouflaged.
Yeah, right.
It's a question of whether you lose it or break it first, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah. Are these things like a normal price, or are these like a special controller? They're going to be a premium or something?
It looks like they're normal priced. If they're... I think it's only really Microsoft that does the special controllers that are like $20 more. I think those are only Xbox. As far as I can tell, they're going to be regular price.
Well, there you go, Dylan. Which one?
Oh, it looks like they have matching headsets too.
Oh,
nice.
Wow.
So like same color.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
So which one, Dylan? Which color?
I'm very partial to the purple one. I don't know. I just like it. To me, the more gaudy a controller is, as long as it's not camo, the more I like it. Just because it's like. With the black one, I typically play at night, so if I'm looking for my controller, I don't have to get up and turn the lights on, and I'm like, all right, where's my controller? But like, I have 2 controllers. I have the default black one, and then I have the glacial white one, and I can see the glacial white one as clear as day at night, and I'm just like, well, there it is.
Do you have a white PS4?
No, I do not. I have a launch PS4.
Oh. Okay, sorry. Just when you said you had the white controller, yeah, sorry.
So you said gaudy controllers. That means you must be a huge fan of that Resident Evil chainsaw controller they put out on the GameCube.
If it wasn't just like 1, expensive, and 2, the absolute worst way to play Resident Evil 4, I would own it.
There's got to be balancing issues on that thing. Like,
oh yeah, it's probably like it just hurts hurts my hands to look at it.
Like, I can't imagine actually trying to play a game on that.
I mean, I can imagine trying. Succeeding, on the other hand, is a...
Well, yeah, okay, that's a better way to put it, yeah. Trying and failing. Yes, I can understand that. What about you, CJ? Sounds like you'd go camo.
Well, look, what I'm interested in is which one has a turbo function.
I don't think any of them.
None of them.
Well, then it's no use to me.
They're all standard DualShocks. You want turbo, you got to go third party.
So you're basically telling me I will actually have to play the game myself with one of these controllers.
Yeah, but you don't play them anyway, so what's the problem?
Well, that's why you have the turbo controller, isn't it? I'll go with the blue one. I like blue.
So you're telling me if you had a turbo controller, you would actually make more progress in your gaming backlog?
Look, I'll enlighten the listeners later on today about the use of the turbo controller this week, if you wish. It's a fantastic invention. So, look, Slammer. Also, I read it this morning on Twitter that you're in the eye of the storm. I believe there's a big hurricane. Is that correct? Moving towards you in that part of America. So I hope you're safe. Be well.
Oh yeah, Hurricane Dorian. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this, then, hopefully you did survive it. If not, we'll come and get those pineapples from you at some point. Thank you. And Mindy, you had a second question?
Yes, second question is from Velvet. She said, with the rumor of the PS5 being unveiled February 2020, how ready are you and your guest to trade in the PS4 for the latest and greatest new piece of hardware coming out soon?
I am very hesitant to, until I learn more about the PS5, if the rumors of PS4 full backwards compatibility are true, then I don't see the point of having a PS4 and a PS5. But if it's not, I'm not going to trade in my PS4 for a PS5. I mean, I still have my launch PS3 sitting right next to me, the all like 400 pounds of this monstrous beast.
And it still works, yeah?
And it still works.
Yeah.
It still works fine. It's never yellow lighted. It gets used occasionally. That's the streaming PS3.
Mm-hmm.
I have two PS3s. The other one's in the bedroom for like when I want to play in bed.
That's funny considering I know what game you're going to talk about later in this podcast, but continue.
But yeah, so like having the old reliable be the streaming PC, especially not PC, the PS3, especially after trying to get some of the online trophies in Uncharted, it hates the new PS3. It's something about the internal hard drive isn't compatible as well as the old hard drives on the Naughty Dog games, which blows my mind.
Yeah, it's. What about you, Mindy? Are you going to look into investing?
I'm not gonna trade it in. I still have PS3 backlog, but
you just like to say that. That's all that is at this point.
Yeah, well, you like to call
Yeah.
yourself a gamer.
Oh, well, no, I don't. I call myself a trophy whore. We've already been through this. No disgrace in that term either, listeners, by the way.
No, like I'll keep an eye on the PS5. PS4 was a launch day purchase for me. I don't think the PS5 will be.
Can I ask you a variation to both of you on this question? How much of what would the PS5 need in it to make it a day one purchase for you then from the PS4 we currently have? What would it have to do or be that would twist your arm into a day one purchase?
An amazing launch library. Amazing launch library.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It all depends on the launch library. I mean, I've already said on our podcast that I'm probably going to buy a PS5 at launch regardless, just to talk about it on our podcast. But if it doesn't have a good launch library, then I'm just literally going to be playing the PS4 games on it.
Yeah.
I mean, CJ, if you want to bankroll a PS5 so we can talk about it on the podcast, I am more than willing to make that sacrifice of shelf space and my time.
Maybe we can sacrifice a Switch for it. we'll have to see what the Nintendo gods have to say. But look, I think it's an interesting question, Velvet. I think it's a really interesting question if you play on both sides, on the Microsoft side as well, because you're going to be potentially footing a half a leg and an arm to buy the Scarlet or whatever it comes under when they release that thing as well. So for me personally, the PS5, it's going to be interesting. I mean, how much of a kick is it going to be on the X? Sony have missed the ball with the Pro big time. I think anyone that owns an X would agree with that. So it's a question now of where the PS5 will sit against the current X and where it will sit against the Scarlet. I think the PS4 for myself is totally fine. As I said before, there is no comparison if you're interested in graphics between the two systems at the moment. But that aside, there's a massive discrepancies in the game library available between the two. Obviously, Sony has that won by a mile. So that will be interesting. I think the games lining up will be massive for both. I mean, look at the acquisitions in the last year or so alone from the two companies. So I think game wise it's going to be amazing. It's just going to be where the PS5 really sits, and then I suppose where the Scarlet sits as well. And then I mean, how much more power do you really need? Then I mean, I'm sure you'd agree, Dylan. Like I see in games now, like still amazing things on the PS4. It's like they're getting better. I mean, we had the Resident Evil 2 port earlier this year, which has just looked phenomenal. So there's still plenty of power left in the console and ability, I think. So yeah. I don't know, Velvet. I wonder what you'll do. I wonder if you'll race out.
Another thing is if they do a PSVR 2 and if it's PS5 support and they actually give it the support like they're giving the PSVR now, if they don't let it die on its first legs, like I thought they would let the PSVR die, because Sony has a terrible track record of their peripheral not working in the first year, will kill it. But I guess they learned from the Vita and really pumped a lot of third-party support, first-party support into the PSVR, and it would be a shame for it to die right here at the PS4, considering how Like, I don't know if it's the same in Australia, but there's, like, especially here in like where I live, there are plenty of VR cafes popping up, and it's
Oh wow.
it's fun to see. Like I let my mom try it when I first bought it, and like I haven't seen her laugh that much in a long time. Just her having fun and like almost breaking my controllers by just dropping them, thinking she's dropping them on a table. But it's I would love to see that like joy of gaming come back, and I'm not sure if VR support is that way, but I definitely think the PS5 would benefit from having either PSVR at launch or at very close to launch with the better setup, because trying to play the PSVR right now is a pain. It's just a pain.
Oh, I totally agree.
Especially with all the cables, especially if you own an old one. If you own a Mark 1, that's like 2 or 3 more cables you have to deal with than what I have to deal with the Mark 2.
No, I totally agree with that. I think it's just going to come down to a question of price. I mean, already the new console is tipped to be, on the top end, and then you throw VR into the mix, and then if you play on other systems, it's just, I mean, the bump is going to have to be pretty big this time, I think, to convince people. I think the bump between PS3 and 4 was big, but whether it will be this time or not, I don't know. But I suppose we'll find out. Is it what date did she say it's coming, Mindy? When should we be ready?
Around February 2020. That's not an official. That's like the rumor. It's the
rumor.
The rumor that was clearly leaked by Sony.
Yeah. Oh well, we shall see. Yeah, we shall see. So look, listeners. We've managed to drag. Was that all the questions, Mindy? Sorry, before I.
That was it. Yeah.
That was it. Yeah. Thank you.
Week.
For this week. So look, if you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out. We will get to them eventually. Don't think that we are ignoring you at all, listeners. So why don't we go into what we've been playing, Dylan? Would you like to kick us off?
Sure. This week has been a very slow week. I was scheduled 55 hours of work this week, and we're currently 44 hours into it. So my gaming time after work has been cut drastically. If I want to get a good amount of sleep, which I don't, by the way. And especially,
are we ringing the overtime bell there, or is that just part of the
no, it's overtime. I'm not salary, I'm hourly. Thank God.
Oh, nice.
So
good money. Money. Yeah.
And because I've been trying to do more research on my anime-inspired Twitch show, I've been watching and reading a lot more anime and manga. So gaming time has gone down a little bit. So I really only played one game, and that was Black Mirror.
Mm-hmm.
I still haven't finished it. I'm on the last chapter. It's kind of a little janky. Like, I don't know if it's just the digital version of the game running on a base PS4, but sometimes like the game will hitch and drop all the frames, and I'll just let go of the controller and I'll be like 5 or 6 steps from where I started.
No, it's not you. Did you install did you install the patch?
Maybe?
Oh wait, you said digital, right? So you must, so you definitely have it. Yeah, pre-patch, it was a lot worse, but it was a budget title, so
yeah,
unfortunately.
All I remember about this game was that it was incredibly dark at the start, like almost pitch black, and I couldn't see anything in the corridors.
Oh no, I can't see anything at all.
Yeah, it's like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's pretty quirky though, isn't it? The characters and stuff. I remember a little bit.
Yeah, it's very H.P. Lovecraftian, Cthulhu horror-esque.
Yeah.
With a little bit of like Gaelic and Scottish setting and background, as well as like, I guess, legend. I'm not up on my Scottish and Gaelic legends to be fair. But no, this game is dark. It takes place over the course of like one night in a house that has no electricity apparently in like 1920s, 30s.
And how did the trophies in this?
There's only like 5 missable trophies. So like
nice.
Knowing that, I was like, all right, which ones are missable? Okay, what do I have to do? Which chapters are they in? Okay, got them. And then I just kind of like, I'm just looking at a general walkthrough to kind of just push me in the right direction, because I can't tell you, like I tried to play it blind for the first chapter, and it probably took me 2-3 hours to figure out what I was supposed to do. To be fair, I'm not a smart man.
You should have used my walkthrough, shouldn't you have?
Yeah.
Mindy, would you like to tell us what the story is for that game, or did you just skip it?
I did not skip it, but I did play it several years ago.
Oh, no,
I will say straight up, this is a reboot of a PC point and click series I think the PC series is better. I think this is not a great reboot.
Yeah, I would have much preferred to play with the keyboard and mouse.
Look into, I think they're on GOG. There's 3 of them on PC. They're a lot better.
Okay. Well, look, I'm going to take this opportunity to move on from that game because that's enough of that, I think. Now, look, it would be remiss of us not to use the word remiss, which we haven't used for a few weeks, listeners, which is shocking. But it's very rare that we get a Knack expert on this podcast. In fact, I don't think we've ever had
CJ,
a Knack expert.
You know what's sad?
What?
You know what's sad,
Oh,
CJ?
boy.
Is that I actually do use the word remiss, and I can't use it anymore.
Well, I didn't use it for 2
you.
weeks, so it's coming back with a vengeance. But look, we've got to acknowledge this, a Knack expert. So what drew you to the Knack series?
Oh, I wouldn't say an expert. I would say more of a victim.
What drew you to this?
It's more like he has a knack for it.
No, it really started as a kind of like a meme on our podcast because one of the first, I guess probably in the first 10 episodes, a question was asked. It was like, what is one of your least favorite Sony IPs? And I just played through a little bit. Like I just did my first 2 playthroughs of Knack, I think. And I was just like, this game sucks. It's terrible. It's not, it's aimed at kids, but it's too hard for kids. So when you play this as an adult, you're like, this is too hard for children. But it's also too hard for adults because of terrible camera angles, terrible hit detection, and the inability to regain life consistently. Mm. And at the higher levels, everything kills you in one hit, and the checkpoints are few and far between. And it just becomes a slog and a test of patience. And so I said that on our podcast, and everyone was like, it'd be real funny if you actually played it, huh? And I was like, yeah, it would be, huh? It'd be hilarious. And then I was like, you know what? If the people, because I kept getting asked, like, oh, when are you going to finish Knack? When are you going to finish Knack? And I was like, fine, you heathens, I'll finish it. So I played it on stream. I got the platinum on stream. And then I was like, well, I'm already this deep. Might as well play Knack too.
Now, did you do that prior to the mobile game shutting down, so it was a lot harder to get the platinum?
I played the mobile game like 4 or 5 hours a day just to get stupid treasures.
Right. That's what I did. That's the only reason Knack is on my profile. Because I was like, if I'm ever going to do it, it's going to be now while this mobile game is still on.
To be fair, the mobile game is not a bad slide match 3 puzzler.
No, it's a fun little Bejeweled clone. Yeah.
But I mean, it being tied to Knack and one of the easiest way to get trophies, or not trophies, but treasures that are randomized.
Ugh, I know. Freaking
I know
diamond
joke,
shards. Ugh.
Probably opened 300 to 400 treasure chests just to get all the Knacks.
It was bad. It was bad.
Look, and I'm going to ask about one more game. That's enough Knack for me, so I'm sorry, we're just going to move on. This My Heroes 1 Justice. Now, I understand you weren't a fan of it.
Oh, boy.
I'm not doing this deliberately.
No. It's just that was the game that I was like, all right, you beat me. I'm done.
Is that bad, is it?
You've bested me. It's just, it is not fun to play because if you play the normal mode, so there's 2, it's a 3D fighting game, an MMA fighting game. The battle system feels like it just does not feel well to play. The default mode is you literally just press square and it does all the combos for you, including chaining your super moves and everything.
Oh, wow.
Which I was really against at first because I'm not playing the game really. I'm not doing, because the only thing I like about fighters is doing these insane combos and stuff, but just pressing square over and over again didn't feel fun to me. I was actually just getting bored with it. And then some of the fights, the enemy will just jump away from you the whole time. Like there's like, you'd be like, beat this enemy in less than 60 seconds. And you're like, well, that's easy. But not when they're leaping away from you the whole time. And you can't make a combo hit. And then if you get hit with a combo and the combo's like, I don't know, 35, 40 hits, and you get hit on the first hit, you can't block any attack. So it's basically just trading slugs for the first hit of the combo until you get a full combo.
Okay. Well, that's a shame, yeah. I picked that game up. I was hoping for more. But anyway, obviously, yeah. You got quite a few of the trophies, I see. But yeah.
Yeah, I did the story mode, and I tried to do mission mode. The online is dead. It's just, there wasn't even people boosting it. That's how dead it is. But I did story mode. I did a little bit of mission mode, and I was just like, after losing to the same guy in one mission, jumping around for 2 or 3 tries, I was like, nah, I'm good. I got better games to play.
Yeah. No, I can understand that. Yeah, that's good. That's a lot. See, we always find interesting things there. There's a couple of other things, but I'm going to let you off the hook on those for now. Mindy, what have you been up to this week?
Well, I finished Block of Bix Deluxe. That's done. I don't have to do it anymore. Yay!
You could always stack it. How many of these have you done now?
Go to hell.
Look at that. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 6 versions of that game. Wow, that's insane.
I'm not going to do that
anyway.
one. I'm not going to.
No.
I shouldn't say never, but I have zero plans to stack it. I played the new Artifacts Monday game. It's notable for. I'll bring up 2 things. If you've played any Artifacts Monday game, it's the same idea. It's notable for 2 reasons. One, once you get the trophy for playing 3 mini games in a row without skipping, you don't have to do the mini games anymore, which has never happened. You still have to do the hidden object stuff, but you don't have to do the mini games anymore.
So you can just skip them in effect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then 2, it's the only Artifacts Monday game I've ever played that hasn't had like a fantasy element in it. Oh, except for, I guess, Noir Chronicles. But usually Artifacts Monday games, there's some sort of magic involved. This one is straight up, no, it's just a murder mystery.
What a breath of fresh air.
Right? That's pretty cool.
Is the story any good?
It's all right.
Would you like to elaborate or just leave it at that?
It's a whodunit.
It's a murder mystery. I shouldn't elaborate. That's the whole point. It's a whodunit.
And you definitely know who did it, don't you? Yeah.
I do know who done it, thank you.
That's very good. And your guide is up and available now for that game? I would imagine. Yeah, perfect. Okay.
And then I played Tower of Beatrice, which has terrible, terrible controls. Really bad controls. Yeah. But the main thing I played this week was Steven Universe. Steven Universe Save the Light. And it's really good timing. I actually didn't plan this at all, but it's more or less a JRPG, so this is a good week to play it.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Do you want to talk about it, or?
Yeah, I'll talk a bit about it. It's got an unfortunate trophy list. They missed so many opportunities to make, fun trophies that reference the show. It's also one of those games where you're going to get the bulk of trophies at the end because the only story trophies here are the ones for beating the game. There's no like, hey, beat this level boss, beat this level boss. No, it's just, that being said, there's nothing missable in this game. Puts you right back in prior to defeating the final boss once you beat the final boss. So anything can be gotten at any time. There is one awful, awful trophy that makes this game much harder than it needs to be. And it's called Crying Breakfast Friend. And it's for defeating any boss while wearing the Crying Breakfast Friend badge. The problem is you do not get this badge until the final dungeon of the game, which means the only boss that you can defeat with this badge on is the final boss, who is actually kind of tricky. Very manageable, but a little tricky. The Crying Breakfast Friend badge cuts all your stats in half. It took me, I think, 3 tries to beat the final boss with this badge on. And I was probably level 26 or 27 while I was doing it. Which doesn't sound very high, but it's one of those games where, you don't level up very often. I'm sure it caps at about 30.
It sounds like a Golden Sun, where you cap at like 30, but you can go to like 100.
Yeah. But otherwise it was a fun. I actually enjoyed this game mostly. The other thing I really didn't like about this game though is it has that Dylan, you probably know about this. It has that Super Mario RPG mechanic of.
I was looking at the trophy list and was about to ask that because I see 10 perfect blocks, 10 perfect attacks.
And that's fine. That's not what I was referencing. But what the mechanic is that they all share. In the game, they're called star points. What were they in Mario RPG? Flower points? Something like that?
Oh, yeah. FP, yeah.
Yeah. They all share the same pool of star points. And this includes basic attacks, which I think is worse than Mario RPG, right? Because Mario RPG, you could still do a basic attack without spending flower points, right?
Yeah, you could still jump, or in some of them you could swing your hammer. But if you were going to do, like, especially like Paper Mario, if you were going to do like a like a twirl hammer, like a corkscrew hammer hit, that took flower points. But just basic attacks never did.
Yeah. I don't like that mechanic. Yeah, I don't like that mechanic because here basic attacks you do have to spend them, and it's not like you can build up. They refresh in real time, and they cap out at 10.
Feels like a mobile game,
and a lot of it. Yeah, and it is. I think it's a mobile developer, which makes sense. I really didn't like that mechanic. I think it takes enjoyment out of this game. That being said, it's still mostly a fun game, except for those two things I brought up.
With the exception of that crying breakfast friend trophy, how difficult is the rest of the game?
It's not. You do have to beat the final boss 3 times because there's 3 different endings and there's trophies for all of those endings. The only other potentially tricky one is the 10 perfect blocks. The timing is different for all enemies, and it seems like even when you're bang on with the timing, it doesn't register as a perfect block. I know a lot of people say to use this one enemy in the forest. I found it a lot easier with a shield enemy because they only have one attack, and that's just to bang you with the shield. So that's some timing you can get down. That's how I did it anyway.
I'm just looking at the guide here. It's a 4 out of 10 difficulty. It's fine. One playthrough, 21 hours. I wonder how they settled on 21 hours. Not 20, 25, 21. There you go. Do you think that's a fair assumption? 21 hours? Is that?
Yeah, that sounds
right?
about right. I'd say 20 to 25 hours. Yeah,
that's good. Good. Something else?
No, that was it this week.
Oh, can I just backtrack on that Tower of Beatrice game?
Sure.
It's not that short for spam, is it? Like it's a couple of hours, isn't it? Is that correct?
Yeah, I think if you do, I played it blind, so it took me. I think it took me a little over 2 hours. If you know what you're doing, it'll probably take you an hour.
Okay, and the controls are dreadful in this game, aren't they?
They're terrible. It was, and I think I remember. When I was playing it, I was thinking about. I think that was the week Corn Shack was on. And I think he said the same thing. I think he said the controls were terrible because it's not a free moving cursor.
Mm-hmm.
It just tabs over from hotspot to hotspot. It's really bad.
That's the game too, where you start it up and you get 1 gold trophy straight away, isn't it? I think, and then you've just got to decide whether you actually want to play it or not. Yeah. Okay. That's cool. Do you think you'd stack that game, or is it too frustrating?
I'm much more likely to stack this than I am Block-A-Pix Deluxe. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that doesn't surprise me in any way. Yeah, that's good. Well, look, listeners, what have I been playing this week? I don't even know anymore. It's just, it's just what it is. Where did we get up to last time? Oh, My Big Sister. That's right, didn't we? So that was quite enjoyable. So I'm just going to throw out maybe just 2 this week. I really like to talk about Life is Strange 2, but I don't think I should because we're getting close now to the end of the series. There's just 1 more episode to come in December. Having said that, I think it's fantastic. I think it's a massive improvement on the first one, but I'm going to be really interested to hear, I don't know if you play these games, Dylan, but I'm going to be interested to hear what you think, Mindy, when you get to particularly the 3rd and the 4th episode at the pacing, because this game has become so slow. It's gone beyond pedestrian to life support now. You're basically just in a coma watching a movie, which is totally fine by me. I think it's still hugely valid, but the gameplay has... Yeah, it's really shrunk up in this sort of thing. So I don't know how you're going to find that, but it will be interesting to see when you do get to it. And then Wreckfest. I think I'm the only one on here that plays racing games. Is that correct?
I don't play them.
I have a few. I haven't played them in a while.
Yeah. Okay, well, look, I think this game is a game for people that don't play racing games as well. It's really, really fun. It's like a Crash Derby, if you like. It's ultra arcadey. It's not simulation in any way, shape, or form. It has pretty intense rubber banding, but it also has this wonderful system that once they rubber band back to you and get in front of you, they drive absolutely dreadfully, and you can easily get in front of them again. So it's sort of a mild frustration tempered with reward straight away, I suppose. So it's nice. And look, this I think we referred to this last week, Mindy, this game, because it was by Bugbear and THQ Nordic, one of the many THQ games coming, and we were sort of talking about how, or maybe I was talking about how THQ is a bit of a B-grade studio potentially, or Porthouse in what they're working on. But this game, it looks good. The graphics in this are really good for a racing game. You know, I mean, there's a few little lighting issues here and there, but by and large, it's fantastic. So, you know, I would highly recommend this. I understand the plat is pretty simple. It's just a matter of going through all the events and maybe just a little bit of grinding to get the money and the number of red cars at times. But it's, you know, some of the events you will have to do multiple times, only because, you know, the cars, well, obviously they take you out at any possible opportunity. They will take you out on a corner or whatever else, and you can do the same to them as well. So, you know, if you're a driver like me that likes to drive without using the brake very often, or an offensive driver, as I think the term is, this is the perfect game for you, because you can use the other cars to help, or, you know, assist you around the corners, but in turn they will do the same to you. So it's sort of a bit of a push and pull. I quite like it. And then I think, you know, I don't know, I think that's really all. Oh, no, I better throw out one more, only because I got a tip here from Velvet, sort of an indirect tip, I suppose. I see she's doing a guide, or at the time of listeners, so it will probably be up, a guide for Smoots Summer Games. I don't know if you remember this one, Mindy. This was where I started my Finger Olympics obsession a month or two ago.
I do remember.
Yes. And then we ended up on Tokyo 2020. Well, look, it's come full circle. We're back on Smoots, because I didn't realize this actually has two stacks, an EU and an NA stack. So, you know, that, you know, look, and I would recommend this, listeners. It's like $10 or something, the US stack. So I don't know the equivalent on the EU store. And, you know, as we said, I was going to talk about the use of the turbo controller. And this game is a perfect example of the use of the turbo controller. You can use it in every event except for the swimming events. And I think this game can potentially be done in 1 hour if you so wish for the plat. I mean, you know, you could play around with it for longer if you wish, but I think, look, listeners, to be honest with you, I did it in 1 hour and 24 minutes, and I stopped twice to refill my glass. So it is definitely possible to do this in 1 hour, I think, with a turbo controller. Oh, that's really spam, that game now, isn't it? What a shame, but, you know, it is what it is. So look, I'm looking at a lot of 1% here. That's good. I'll keep that up into next week, I think. But, you know, why don't we turn our attention to some new releases, what we've got coming out this week. Now, Mindy, I'm interested. I'm going to throw to you first, because you said you'd like to change your game. So what did you settle on?
So a couple of podcasts ago, I talked about potential spam in Agent A, A Puzzle in Disguise. That's actually coming out this week. Mm-hmm. And I am super about this. In fact, Velvet messaged me and she said, hey, are you gonna do a walkthrough for Agent A? And I said, I don't plan to. Go ahead. And she said, I'm surprised. This is right up your alley. And I said, I know. Because Velvet and I tend to cover a lot of the same ground. Sometimes we'll message each other and be like, hey, I'm covering this, just so you don't waste time putting a guide together, and back and forth like that. Anyway, it's a point and click. Yay. You play as Agent A in this stylish secret agent world full of retro futuristic contraptions, hidden gizmos, gadgets, and clever logic-based puzzles. But be warned, Ruby LaRouge is no spy to be taken lightly. Explore a labyrinth of perplexing puzzles in this quirky game of cat and mouse that'll have you wondering whether you're the cat or the mouse. So honestly, it feels a bit like they took some inspiration from Archer here. It's a very interesting art style. It's definitely set in the 60s. At least the art style is. But it looks pretty groovy. I'm a fan. I might have to pick this one up. But I do know Velvet's working on a guide.
This game will be very quick. I see people are already doing this at about an hour and a half. So it will be a
That sounds about right. If you're doing a point and click with a guide, they tend to take about 2 hours. Unless they're like Siberia 3, in which case they'll take fucking days.
Yeah. All right, cool. And that is out, listeners, already on the store. There is a double stack of that game, NA and EU. Perfect.
Oh, is there? Oh,
there is. Yeah. So you can do it twice if you so desire. Dylan, now what are you gonna bring here? What are you gonna talk about?
It has finally happened. The long-awaited Catherine Full Body is being released this coming up Tuesday, the 6th. No, the 3rd. We're
talking about a game here, are we? Or
yeah. Catherine, that's the remake of Catherine.
Good. Sorry, Full Body.
It's
I was just thinking of something. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just looking at the wrong site. Carry on. I'll just get that. Yeah.
It is a remake of the critically acclaimed Atlas game, puzzle platforming / dating sim / anime game. Catherine, that came out in like 2011, 2012. I remember as I bought the collector's edition on launch when I was in college because I liked everything that was in it. There was a like pillowcase. There was a pair of boxers that the protagonist Vincent wears in the game. There was like a soundtrack. There was like a collectible.
I remember. It was all in like a pizza box, right?
Yeah, it was in a sweet pizza box.
Yeah.
And then it came with like the game and like might have had like an exclusive cover or like a steelbook. I don't remember. So they're releasing it. They're remaking it, and they've been teasing the remake for like 2 years at this point. So I always kind of wanted to go back and play it, but Catherine is like a pain in my ass and will always hold a place in my heart for like how good half the game is. Because I said earlier, I'm not a smart man and puzzles confuse me. So doing the puzzle aspect of the game was my least favorite part, but watching the like visual novel dating sim anime part was really enjoyable to me. And now that they're adding, go ahead, sorry.
This is a pretty hard game as well, isn't it? It's not.
Yeah, the puzzles are no joke.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the problems, at least with the platinum, is that, what is it called, the Golden Tower or whatever, where it's all randomized.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if you followed a video guide to get you through, the base game, you still have that randomized tower to do, which is the plat breaker, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, I tried that once and I was like, yeah, no, I'm good.
I don't even think I need to try that once.
Yeah, me and Zach had a buddy in college who was like a savant in this game. He would like just look at it and then he would be like, all right, I got it. And then he would have the whole like tower built in like a minute, 2 minutes. And we'd be like, what the hell, dude? How are you so good at this game?
Are you still in touch with this person, and does this person live near me?
They currently live in Japan.
So no.
And I'm sure alcohol has dulled his senses because just he loves going out and drinking with his coworkers. So I'm sure that whatever savantness was there might still be there, but it's like it's deep down in there.
Push2Plat, the boosting service for Mindy. Please send your submissions in this week. Mindy, would you like to share with the listeners what you'll be boosting in the next month?
I still have to go back to The Last of Us and get that one trophy.
Well, look! Run now, listeners! Run as fast.
Oh, and Red Dead Redemption, Redemption 2. That's what I need to boost.
Run! Yeah. Okay. Cool, Catherine. Yeah, that looks interesting. So what's your verdict on that? Are you going to pick it up or at some point?
See, until they showed me the collector's edition, I was like, nah, I think I'm good. I think I don't want to go back down that. And it really depends on like the trophies that come out, because I don't think there's a list yet.
I can't imagine it wouldn't be just a straight port of the original list.
Yeah, I would hope not. That way I don't have to do the Golden Tower. And they added a third Catherine, except she's just called Ren. And there was a lot of like controversy when they first announced her because of there was the trailer they announced saying that like there was a really bad transphobic joke in the trailer, and that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, which it honestly should. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people were concerned immediately, and that was during the announcement trailer. But Atlas has come out and said, no, she's actually an angel. She has no genitalia. That's what that was. I was like, okay.
It's a good cover.
So that's, yeah. But to me, I was like, if it's true and that she isn't like an angel and like an alien, they described it as being an angel and an alien, I would be really interested just to pursue that path, just because the game is already weird and wacky. I mean, the gameplay part of the game is you are a Vincent, you're trying to climb a tower and, stop yourself from getting eaten by like his fears manifested as monsters. So like his fear of having children is manifested as a butt monster chasing him up the tower. It's the lower half of a lady chasing him up the tower.
It's delightfully Japanesey.
Yeah. But I would like to see. I'm interested to see how it has changed in the past 6-7 years, and if it still holds up, gameplay wise.
Yeah, well, that's the big thing. Yeah, we will see. And look, listeners, I'm going to throw out another racing game because we're well in the mix of it at the moment. I mean, we had Wreckfest and the MXGP 2019 last week. So next week coming up, if you need even more racing, WRC8, the FIA World Rally Championship game. So also notoriously known as a massive grind fest with the same trophy list every year. And look, they have not disappointed. The trophy list is basically the same again, although the grind is potentially less this time. The distances are only down to 2,000 instead of 5,000, and also the complete every challenge trophy is gone as well. So look, aside from the trophies, though, this game looks beautiful and amazing as usual. And I think it will be the main rally game. I'm just looking through for the listings for the rest of the year. The main rally game for this year. So look, if you're a racing whore, you're going to be all over that. You know what to expect. The main thing for this year seems to be the new dynamic weather system. That's everywhere now, isn't it? Hail to Forza, dynamic weather. So look, that's another racing game to add to the list. Awesome. Okay. Does anyone else have anything else for new releases before we move on? Did I miss any?
I mean, Control came out this week, right? That's the big one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, this week has been big.
And then Control, and then at the end of the week was Man of Medan, which should be here tomorrow.
That's right. Yes.
I'm looking forward to that one, although I'm a little worried because there's a lot of people on like PSNP already have it, and no one has the platinum. So I'm really hoping it's not glitched.
It could be because there's you have to do an online trophy, and maybe the servers aren't up yet.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, me and Afraid of the Fall are going to do a live stream playthrough of the co-op online.
Yeah. I think there may be more than one online trophy as well there, Mindy, so that might be something to check out.
Well, I'm just looking, and it looks like none of them are tied to the online. It's like for collectibles.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm not too sure on that. I read that comment as well, so I'm not 100% sure or not. But
I've seen a bunch of collectible guides though on YouTube from the YouTubers that I follow that do trophy guides. So maybe they're just glitched on some people's. I don't know.
Yeah, because I'm looking at one of them is finished the shared story. That's got to be the online one, right?
Yeah, that's the online one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and almost 10% of people who've played it right now have that.
Huh.
So it's not that. It's found all the black framed pictures and found all secrets and pictures. Those are the ones that no one seems to have earned.
So listeners, I know there's a lot of anticipation for this game, so many of you will jump into this over the weekend. You'll probably played it by the time you hear this or not. But one of the lovely things when you load up this game is it has in the options menu at the start menu, the first thing you see is never play alone. And then the second option is play alone. So it doesn't make you feel great about yourself when you choose that second option. But look, obviously maybe that's why 10% of the people have the online trophy, because they didn't want to play alone. But it obviously definitely does encourage you to play with other people this game. So it will be interesting, to see how that all goes. But yeah, and as you said, Mindy, Control as well, and there are a bunch of good indie games as well. We didn't talk about last week. Knights and Bikes, one of them in particular. So we'll hopefully do a little bit of coverage of that maybe next time. But I think that's enough for new releases. Shall we move into the topic? What a dangerous topic to have, listeners. JRPGs. They go forever. Will this topic go forever? Well, prepare yourself. It's usually possible it will. So why don't we start off then first? Because, this, who knows, there's no structure to this topic, listeners. It's just going to go. It's just going to organically grow, as it does. And I'm going to ask you both here to elaborate here. One of the core staples of a JRPG is a monotonous grind. I'm sure you would both agree. It's a staple of what makes all great JRPGs. So can I ask you, do you have a particular grinding strategy? When you've got to grind long and hard, sometimes fast, do you have a snacks? Do you have distractions? Like, how do you do it, Dylan? What's your preferred, grinding method?
It really depends on the game. If I'm actually having fun grinding, or if it's like one of those grinding games where you have to actually pay attention while you grind, I'll probably pay more attention towards the game, or I might put on like a podcast or like a video on YouTube, or just listen to something to chill out. But if it's just like, hey, get to level 99 for every character and you're like level 70 and you've done everything else, then I'm just holding the X button or whatever button it is to do action, and I'm not even paying attention. I'll look every like 20 minutes and save it just to be safe. But if it's just a long, monotonous grind like that, I'm normally not in that monotony. I'm doing something else. Or
Yeah, no, I understand. And Mindy, how do you feel about the grind?
As I get older, I have less patience for it. I still do it because I prefer spending that kind of monotonous time to trade off speeding through actual game progression. Because I think I still have more patience for grinding than dying to a boss and retrying. You know what I mean? Nowadays it's a lot easier. I watch something on my computer while I'm grinding, or my TV if I'm playing a JRPG on Vita, because again, very low tolerance for JRPGs on console now, even though I just played Steven Universe. But that was a shorter one. I'm talking more the long stuff.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's fair enough. So, look, I mean, that's that's one of the staples of JRPGs, maybe the least liked of all staples. Dylan, what do you like about JRPGs? What draws you to them?
The melodrama. I love melodrama in JRPGs. It's so good. It satisfies me. Because in a JRPG, you can have this slow burn melodrama. Look at like Final Fantasy VI, for instance.
I was literally just thinking about that.
With Kefka being like the big bad, he takes his sweet time to chew that scenery, even though there is no like voice acting, and it's so good. And he's a jester, and like when I first saw Kefka, I was like, this guy's a literal clown. And then he like poisons an entire village, and he takes these grandiose bad guy like soliloquies and monologues about doing all this bad stuff, and you're like, oh, it's so good. But if I were to play that in an action game, I'd be like, all right, this is cheesy and hammy. But because there's so much time between them, you're just like, I get it. I get why people watch soap operas. I get it.
I like that. Yeah. Mindy, what draws you to JRPGs?
Very similar. I started playing JRPGs really early on because it was, at the time it was the only video game that had real story to it, and I've always been about story. A lot. Again, I grew up mostly on the NES and then the SNES, and a lot of it was just, playing for points or just kind of platform through a level. There's no real story. You had semblances of one, in little short cutscenes in games like Castlevania and Mega Man. Oh, hey Dylan, how do you feel about Mega Man?
I like Mega Man. I like the Blue Bomber, jump and shoot man.
Yeah. You down with the Blue Bomber?
Yeah. I'm garbage.
It's just getting more and more subtle every week, isn't it, listeners? You can't even step away for a second. I'm garbage at the game.
At least I had a segue this time. And then I actually did mean to bring up, I saw that you had one trophy unlocked in Castlevania Requiem, so I got to ask you, how do you feel about Metroidvanias?
I like Metroidvanias. I played one level of Rondo of Blood and went, damn, this hard. And then played Hollow Knight, and I was like, damn, this is hard too. Maybe I'm just bad at games. And then I stopped playing spooky games for October, and I have not gone back.
No, well, to be fair, Rondo of Blood it's keeping me from the platinum, but Hollow Knight is a difficult Metroidvania.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed every minute I played, except getting hella lost every single time I went into a new room.
It's a really big map. Yeah.
I've just found the perfect answer for what do you think about Metroidvanias. Well, I got one trophy. That basically says it all.
Yeah.
Not really for you, though, CJ.
Bring on your Metroidvania expert. I can hear him or her grinding their teeth already.
I do plan on going back to the Requiem because I do want to play through Symphony of the Night because I remember starting it but never finishing it.
You should. It's where it's half of the reason. It's the Vania for the Metroidvania. That's where we get the term. CJ, you learned something.
Yeah. Well, I got a particularly shocking message this week that apparently there's a Mega Man. I can't imagine it's a new one. Is it a remaster or another porting of a Mega Man is coming to PS4? Do you know about this, Mindy?
The Zero X collection?
You must be excited, Mindy. Yeah.
I'm more excited with the fact that Lion King and Aladdin are getting ported to PS4. Pick those up.
Oh, good. We can all get mad at it together.
Pick them up before they get delisted, because that's what tends to happen with these Disney games on.
Yeah.
on PlayStation.
We can all have, what is that? I Can't Wait to Be King, the MIDI version of that song stuck in your head for 6 years while you try and beat the game.
What I don't know, and this is so far from JRPGs, what I don't know, because Aladdin is one of the big contentious games. When people talk about the console wars, the SNES and the Genesis, which one's superior, Aladdin, surprisingly, is one of the big games that gets, or is one of the most common games to get brought up as like a decider. Because I think the Genesis one is more of an action game, while the SNES one focuses more on platforming, I think.
Yeah, the Genesis version has a sword.
Yeah.
And then the SNES one, you throw apples at people.
That is correct.
Which to me feels more Aladdin than a sword.
Right? Yes, thank you.
Aladdin, I don't remember Aladdin really trying to threaten someone with a sword.
Oh, I like it. Good. Well, look,
Yeah, so stories, JRPG and stories.
Yeah.
Look, I don't even know where that thread has gone anymore, listeners. I'm still stuck on Metroidvania. Ori and the Blind... I don't know, listeners. I don't care anymore. One trophy. That sounds like a plan for me. Okay, so look, let's come back to JRPGs in some roundabout fashion. Now, I've got a question, because we'll obviously go into some games in a second. I'm sure you have your favorites you want to talk about. But have we passed the golden day of the JRPG? Are the older JRPGs better than what we're receiving now? What do you think, Mindy? We'll start with you.
I don't know. I think part of the thing you could easily look at in modern JRPGs is say a lot of them are really trope-y, but whereas it was more forgivable or not as tropey, at least for a JRPG trope, back in like the 16-bit era, because they hadn't done a lot of them before. So I think it's a matter of finding new ways to go about the story or the characters without being just kind of cookie cutter cliches, I guess. I think for me, my personal golden age of JRPGs, yeah, we're done. But in terms of the genre, I don't think so. No.
What do you think, Dylan?
It's difficult to me because a JRPG is so broad of a term, of an umbrella, because you have your turn-based RPGs, you have your action JRPGs. I think we may have passed the peak and going slightly downhill for turn-based RPGs. And I say that, and two of my favorite JRPGs of all time came out in the last 3 years. So I don't want to say that we're past. No, it's Persona 5 and Dragon Quest 11.
Oh, okay.
But to be fair, Dragon Quest 11 was a love letter to the Dragon Quest series as a whole, and had to be turn-based. And I can't imagine Persona 5 oozing as much style and as being as good of a story with it being an action RPG. Also, another legacy game of Persona being a JRPG was a turn-based RPG when it started and hasn't really changed from that. But if you look at, like, Final Fantasy has tried to change the formula since 10? No, 12 was still turn-based. Well, kinda. 12 was like that weird gambit system that could be turn-based, but not. Like, they've tried to step away from the turn-based and make it more action. I mean, look at 15. That's an action-based, very heavily inspired by 13's battle system, I feel like, just because you stack attacks to do damage and stuff. I think the traditional, like, you hit me, it's my turn. I hit you, you hit me. We basically trade damage back and forth until one of us dies. That style of RPG, I feel like, is on its way out, because one of the big, like, I can't really remember an action RPG that I played before Kingdom Hearts, and after Kingdom Hearts, there were a lot of action RPGs.
Yeah.
Because it was new and it worked.
That's definitely the way it seems to be going, though, isn't it, as well?
Which I love a...
Yeah, and I should say, yeah, most of the JRPGs I'll probably be talking about when I reference in general, I'm talking about, the turn-based stuff. That's a really good distinction to make.
Yeah, because I grew up on those. Final Fantasy IX, my favorite game of all time, hands down, will never be challenged. It was only closely challenged by Persona 5, is turn-based. And I can't imagine...
Well, because Final Fantasy was turn-based until...
12, really?
Well, until
yeah.
11, or technically 11, but yeah, until 12, right?
Yeah, and then it became that weird pseudo turn-based, pseudo action gambit system, which I personally enjoyed the first time playing it, and going back and playing it again this year. I thought it worked fine.
Actually, I will say, I think Parasite Eve, by your definition, is an action RPG as opposed to a turn-based RPG.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
But it is Square Enix,
Yeah.
and Kingdom Hearts did it better than
Yeah.
Parasite Eve in terms of the action RPG. So
Parasite Eve walked so Kingdom Hearts could run.
that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Basically.
That is a nice way of thinking of it. Yeah.
Well, let me rephrase that. Parasite Eve stumbled clumsily so Kingdom Hearts could run.
But I can't hate
Just
it.
a shame it
I
didn't keep
can't.
running.
No, I can't. Yeah.
So Mindy, why don't we start throwing out some games then? Do you want to reference some?
Well, I mean, I talked about Shadow Hearts quite a lot last week. That's a JRPG.
Not Shadow Hearts.
For all that I said that I played a lot of JRPGs when I was growing up, and I did. It was mostly the Square stuff. So your Final Fantasies, Kingdom Hearts. I did play 1 and 2, and I kind of stopped. I mentioned Super Mario RPG earlier today. I never really got into Persona. Although I do have Persona 4 Golden on my Vita, and I swear one day I will play it.
It's so good. It was my favorite till Persona 5 came out and literally oozed so much style. I was like, I can't hate you.
I have seen, like, a friend of mine had it, and I watched him play it one night, and I was like, yeah, I'm pretty down with this. But my favorites are probably, again, I'm going to go back to Super Nintendo here. Final Fantasy IV, despite all its flaws, I can't hate this game. Final Fantasy VI is really, really good and solid. Chrono Trigger, like that was a real golden age for Squaresoft. Was like the Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VI, Secret of Mana era. And I will also give a shout out to Secret of Evermore, which is another more action RPG that Squaresoft did on the Super Nintendo. I think it gets a lot of hate, and it shouldn't.
I mean, it's hard to come off of Secret of Mana with the way that it was, and then I guess slap the name Secret of onto a game that had really nothing to do with it except the battle system.
Yeah, that was I think one of the reasons it gets a lot of hate. I think the other reason is there's this rumor or belief that because we got Secret of Evermore, which by the way was done by, I think it was done by Square's North American division. Like, it had nothing to do with the people who would have developed and worked on Secret of Mana. Anyway, but there's a belief, and it's an incorrect belief, that because we got Secret of Evermore, that's the reason we didn't get the sequel to Secret of Mana on PS3 on Super Nintendo. That's not actually true at all. But I think the naming was not good.
So Dylan, you've said already that Final Fantasy IX was one of your favorites. You opened the door on this as well. So I know a lot of people play this game, but I have not in my immediate gaming circle. I don't know a lot. Persona 5.
Yes.
So obviously you're a fan.
It is tied with Dragon Quest XI as my second favorite RPG of all time.
Okay, so talk to me about this game. Why do you like it so much?
Where to start with Persona 5? It has this pedigree. Persona 3, 4, and 5. I can't tell you which one I love more. It's very, very, very minuscule that Persona 5 takes the cake. And that might just be recency bias, even though that was 3 years ago at this point. Just because this game, first off, sounds amazing. Plays amazing. The story is fantastic. There's so much style in this game. There's so much style in one screenshot of this game than most other video games in their entire run. I mean, if you just look at a screenshot of the turn-based reticle, and I don't know, the music, what really sets Persona apart from other JRPGs, if you exclude their story and like the whole, especially after 3, the like dating sim, life sim part, is the music. No two tracks sound similar. And if you play Persona 5, and then especially with me, and you watch a lot of YouTubers that deal with Japanese culture, Japanese animation, and RPGs, you will hear background music from this game in at least one of their videos because it fits everything. what is the name of that? There's a 10-hour loop. Actually, when I'm working alone and like I'm editing or something, I will actually put on a 10-hour version of one of the themes, and I think it's called it's like something, but it's like the rain version, behind the mask, yeah, or beneath the mask, sorry. And it's just like your basic when you're in your room theme, and it's so good.
Yeah. Okay. So you sort of glossed over though, but the relationship dating sim builder side, whatever you want to call it, that's a pretty substantial part of 4 and 5, isn't it?
3, 4, and 5, yeah. They introduced it in the 3, and it completely changed the landscape of Persona and how people like the critical reception, because the reception for Persona 1 and 2 was good, but it wasn't like Persona 3. When Persona 3 came out and they introduced this whole like dating sim, life sim, like every day, like you go through the life of, like you go through a calendar day each day. That really changed the game especially for storytelling, because now you can be like, okay, well, this event takes place on this day. You are free to use any of these other days just to like level your character up, to like, especially in this game, max out your confidants, who will give you new personas and new abilities to make monsters and stuff. But on these set days are your deadlines, and if you're not ready by these deadlines, that's game over.
See, that's the problem I have with these games. Like, a lot of JRPGs, they're very open-ended, by their nature. So in your own time, how do you, like, does that, I mean, having set days and a time, do you ever get, like, I don't know, like tense that you're not using it right, or do you ever? I mean, do you ever, like? I'm sure this is discussed a lot of purists. Would you ever save scum a day and replay that day because you didn't get the outcome you sort of wanted, or do you feel that sort of pressure, or you don't? Like that doesn't occur to you at all?
Not on because to get the platinum in Persona 4 or Persona 5, you have to do multiple playthroughs. It's just impossible. Because you have to complete the compendium. And certain personas don't unlock until you've beaten the game. So you have to just play it again. So I always play kind of blind. Like Persona, especially Shin Megami Tensei games, are notoriously difficult with their bosses. Yeah. That if you don't have the proper setup, you are going to get bodied no matter what you do. You can be like 6 levels higher than the boss. And if your setup's wrong, you're going to die. And you're going to go back 2 hours. Because one of the bosses in Persona 5... I think between all 3 of his phases, it's about a 2-hour fight. So if you get knocked out in phase 3 after spending 2 hours, you're back to phase 1. So I hate that, and I'm not going to deal with that. So I always look ahead to see what the optimal setup for the boss is, so I don't lose all that progress. But other than that, I typically play them blind because I really like the stories and how they unfold.
Yeah, okay.
If anything, I'll look up like what days are best to do tasks that raise your individual stats. Like, there are certain days that you go and you can eat a burger challenge at this burger bar, and then if you do it, you'll gain like +3 guts or whatever. But only on certain days, and you don't want to miss that up. You don't want to miss those because they can give you boosts later in the game. And some confidants are only accessible if you have so much guts or intelligence and stuff like that.
Yeah, see, this is what always turned me off. There's all these little things, and as you say, you play blind, but then these are in the back of your mind. See, I'm thinking, I know Persona 5. Correct me if I'm wrong. Your characters or your friends, they can't die per se, can they? Like, from day to day. Like, I mean, you can die in the dungeon or whatever, I suppose, but you won't lose them in effect permanently. They're not.
No. I don't think in any Persona game that you lose. Well, Persona 3, 4, and 5, you lose a party member who like joins your party permanently. Like, there are certain party members that join your party for like a chapter or like an investigation, especially in 4 and 3, because the story of 5 is you are a group of kids who steal people's hearts and change their desires, and you take on the role as the Phantom Thieves. And so you always have to go through a dungeon twice. The first time through the dungeon is to explore through the dungeon and find where the heart is. And you can't just steal the heart. You have to leave a calling card so that their heart becomes vulnerable.
Yes.
But they're also on high alert. So the next time when you go in for the heist, like, you leave a calling card that says, "We will steal your heart on this day." And so like the security in their palace, their mind palace, is like super high, and you can just avoid all the enemies and go straight for the boss. And when you do that, like you beat the game, like, or you beat that boss, you steal their heart, and it changes their outward appearance, like the character's outward appearance. So, like some of the characters are like the first Palace is a super pervy coach who like
Yes.
his palace is like full of schoolgirls in like either traditional Japanese swimming suits or like volleyball uniforms, and they're like servants to him and stuff. And he's like, he looks like a king, and he's got like a scepter and a crown and all that stuff.
And a fantastic boss fight, that one as well.
Yeah, it's very good, and like it's very unique because you have to steal his crown to do damage to him, because there's weak spots behind his crown. I believe you had to steal his crown. It's either his crown or his scepter. But you have to actually wait for your mascot character to like jump up and steal it, or distract him enough for you to steal it. And
yeah,
it really introduces you into like, you actually have to use your wits, and sometimes brute force isn't enough.
Yeah, yeah, which often does work in JRPGs. I think you can force your way through. But yeah, no, that's it. The only reason I sort of harp and bring on that issue is that I've been playing a little bit of Fire Emblem Three Houses, and of course, there the decisions matter insofar as in the battle you can lose a character permanently; they can die, so you can have invested a lot of time into them and then they're gone. You know, and vice versa. You can go down a path with them that you see later on you would have preferred to go a different way, and I think just that. Not having, I mean, it's a different type of JRPG, isn't it? Because I mean, the ones I play, say like Final Fantasy 14, even you mentioned Dragon Quest 11, there as well. They don't. I mean, they're linear, aren't they? Like I'm sure you would agree, Dragon's Quest 11 is still linear. It's an open world or whatever. But
yeah, it's the first game I've played that has 5 distinct acts to it.
Yeah, it's a massive game.
The game never stops, but it never feels like it drags. I think my platinum time was 105-6 hours, and only 2 of that was grinding out to get to level 99. The rest of it was purely going through the story and doing side quests, because there's 5 acts to this game.
Yes, that's right. It's a fantastic. I actually have an unfortunate story with that, in that I was a fair way into that game. I'm going to say like between 30 and 40 hours, and my PS4 corrupted and I lost my save. So I'm still on the fence on whether I'll ever go back to that game or not. But look, I did a similar thing with Assassin, so you never say never. So with that, with that in mind, I was going to ask, did you play Ni no Kuni 2?
Yeah.
You did. So what about, and Mindy, I know you haven't played this game, but perhaps you can relate to it in other games that you've played. What about different elements in a JRPG? I mean, one of the elements in Ni no Kuni 2 was actually having the village and the building, building, I suppose, mechanic, and that running at the same time. How do you feel about that, that sort of stuff? Do you like that stuff as a distraction? Or
That was one of my least favorite parts of the game, just because it's a mobile game tactic in a console full price game, because it's in real time. So if something says it'll take 8 hours, your PlayStation 4 has to be on for 8 hours.
That's correct, yeah.
You can't just turn it off and then be like, 8 hours have passed. No, you have to leave it on. I left my PlayStation on every single night that I went to sleep, and turned it off when I woke up.
Well, that's a good tactic in that game.
Because you have to do it.
I mean, it also, I forget the King's Guild or whatever the money was, I forget, gold, would build up that way as well. Yeah, if you left it on. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, Mindy, because your JRPG, it tends to be a lot earlier than, I haven't played a lot of them, but what do you think about these distractions within the game? Do you like these sort of mini games, I suppose, within the game?
If they serve some sort of purpose, like they can be a fun little aside that you play for 5 minutes and never play again, or sometimes it's like if you like Final Fantasy X, they had Blitzball, like they had a whole sport that you could play in the game, and you could do it just kind of for funsies for a couple minutes, or if you really kept at it, you get I think Waka's ultimate weapon, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Like they served a purpose. That having been said, compare this to Yakuza, which granted is not a JRPG, but
well, not so fast.
It's famous for having all of these distractions in there that keep you away from the main story.
Have you seen the news for Yakuza 7?
No.
It is a turn-based JRPG now.
You're joking.
I'm not. It's turn-based.
You should check out Jim's Sterling comment on that, Minty. At some point, you'll find it amusing. But are you now? I get this confused here, Dylan. You'll have to help me. Are you the Yakuza playing member of the PlatCast, or is that more Zach, or is it both of you?
That is. I've played a little bit of Yakuza 0, but Zach has platinumed Yakuza 0 and started Kiwami. Yes. I like the game. I look at it and I go, I have to play X hours of Mahjong. I have to play X hours of this stuff that I'm not really going to enjoy.
I understand that. So when you saw that announcement then with the turn-based combat, did that pique your interest though in the series?
Oh, I laughed my ass off when it happened because I was like, finally, I know in like 4 or 5 years, Zach will finally get to it and he'll have to play an RPG.
But for yourself, would you be interested with that, or it's not going to change your feeling?
If it's just the combat and I still have to do like all of the karaoke and mahjong and poker and shogi and stuff and games that I don't understand that aren't, explained well, I don't know. I'll have to see what the trophy list looks like.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Now we've talked about. I mean, and I don't want to dwell on this because we did talk about music a few weeks ago. But one of the big elements of JRPGs, of course, is the music. Mindy, do you have any comments on that? Is there? Do you feel that way? Do you feel the epic music in these games?
Well, it's great, and I think it has to be. It's because so many JRPGs, if not all of them, are like it's you against the world. Like it's you against you are Earth's only protector. So, it wouldn't be good to have like, something you would find in Mega Man, where it's just a nice little loop to kind of set a mood in this stage that you're platforming through. It's got to build you up, or it's much more, they use music much like you would cinematically, where it really is setting a tone. So you'll have this beautiful soft music that's designed to evoke certain emotions, like let's say, that one scene in Final Fantasy VII, which is a 20-year-old spoiler, but I still won't straight up say it, even though it's the worst kept secret in gaming ever. But that was a very lovely time to use that theme. And Dylan, I think you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
CJ doesn't, but let's just let him be ignorant. Actually, it is such a poorly kept secret. I'm sure you know what it is anyway, CJ, but it takes place about midway through the game. Yeah, so the music is really great, and it's more, and this may not be the case anymore because the ability to create digital music has changed quite a bit. But it used to be that you get these very simple looping tracks that were designed to loop very easily in most video games, and then JRPGs, it was much more complex when they needed to be.
Yeah. Now you've already mentioned the music a little bit, Dylan, but how do you feel? Like you would agree? It's a
Oh yeah, music plays an integral part in JRPGs because, I mean, you can't think of Sephiroth without hearing, his theme. You can't really think about Kefka without hearing either his laugh or the Kefka theme.
It's mostly the laugh.
Yeah, that terrible SNES laugh. But I mean, like even with Final Fantasy IX, like I can 90% of the time tell you where in the game the music takes place just by hearing a few notes of it, and like I can bring you a memory of what I was doing at that time playing that game when I was 9 years old.
The composers are very clever, the way they design the motifs around the actions and the story. Yeah, and I mean, just because you're investing so much time into the game, you're hearing it so often as well. It becomes imprinted. Yeah, that's true. Now, look, you mentioned in the introduction about length of games and stuff. So, we're talking about your average length JRPGs or whatever that means these days. But how do you feel about these long, crazy long JRPGs? Things like Star Ocean coming in, 500 plus hours, Final Fantasy 14, a lifetime potentially. Like, would you? And I know you said you don't commit to these things, but is there a world you could see yourself playing a game of that length, or do you just find it just too much to fathom?
If I'm gonna, denote 500 hours of something of my life to it, I either want to be able to master it later down the line, or it has to be the best thing I've ever done or played or consumed. Like I loved Persona 5 to death, and I probably put 130 hours into it between 2 playthroughs. If it were any longer, I feel like my enjoyment of it would have waned. Like, if I had to spend 300 hours to get the platinum, I would have done it because, I still have a love for this game. But it would have deterred from it being in the pantheon for me of best JRPGs of all time. And I think anywhere between 30 to 60 to 70 hours is a good length for a JRPG.
Mm-hmm.
Story-wise, if you can beat the game in if you can beat the story in 30 hours to 70 hours, I think that's great. Platinum Experience, on the other hand, I would say it caps at 130, 140 hours.
Yeah.
Because I own 2 Tales of games, and I'm those are $300 platinums.
Yes.
And there's going to be a time where it's going to be 200 hours between platinums or between trophies. I don't know if I could do that.
What was that one that famously took 1,000 hours? Was that White Knight Chronicles? That took
White Knight Chronicles
1 million
2.
hours to platinum. Well, both of them, right?
I think so. Yeah.
The first one you can't even platinum anymore, but it took 700 hours to platinum. And then White Knight 2 is just and then what's the other one? It's one of the Star Ocean ones, right?
Star Ocean 4.
Was it Star Ocean 4?
Until the End of Time. Yeah, is it Till the End of Time?
Is it The Last Hope or The End of Time? It's one of those two.
The Last Hope, yeah, that's it. One of those two.
No, it was on PS3. I think you're right, CJ. I think it was The Last Hope.
It also ported to the PS4, so you can do it multiple times now.
Yeah.
As I believe.
No, thank you.
I mean, I played it. And I completed the story, and I was like, I got all I could from this game. I don't feel like spending 90 hours between trophies, so I think I'm good.
Yeah, they've definitely become a grind fest, those games, I think. I think you're right. I think there seems to be a sweet spot. I mean, there's a big difference between 100 or 130 and 300 hours. And I think when you're talking about 300 to 500 plus hours, you're talking about years, I think, not continuous. Where, a 100-hour game, I know Minty just coming off Assassin's Creed, which not a JRPG, but in that range where you can play that, continuously, but I don't know if you'd agree, much longer than that, it's starting to become too much.
Do not look at how quickly I got the platinum for Dragon Quest XI, because it will tell you how little spare time I had. I'll tell you, I think it's less than 2 weeks.
They are addictive, though, aren't they? I mean, they suck you into the world, don't they? It's just
1 week and 3 days to do 109 hours.
Was it? No wonder these 55-hour work weeks are easy for you.
Well, I mean, I'm having fun doing Dragon Quest XI.
Yeah. No, there is definitely something in that, I think. So, I mean, now what about on the other side? I know we're sort of slowly wrapping up the topic, but so we've looked at the long end of JRPGs. We looked in the middle ground there of the as you said, the 30 to 80 sort of hours. What about the much shorter end? So almost like the mini JRPGs. So I mean, and no disrespect to them, but looking at maybe some of the Kemco style games or
the Kemco stuff.
Yes, yeah.
Kemco garbage.
Well, okay, well, disrespect.
Yeah, well, it's just because it's so bland and generic. They don't even try anymore. That's why I don't really respect Kemco when they release a new JRPG, because I know it's either going to be A, bland, or B, so generic that I think it's bland, or C, so haphazardly slapped together in an effort to get it out the door that it's just not fun to play.
Yeah. Okay, well, I have a question then on I don't know if, again, I'm not sure if it's you or Zach or if you both play it, but the Blue Reflection, I know one of you has to play that game.
Oh, both have to play it.
Oh, you both, so there's a JRPG that comes in at around 20 to 30 hours. I don't know if you've played that yet.
It's next on the list of gold tier Patreon games on our podcast.
Okay, well, it will be interesting to see what you think, because I think in a lot of ways that's it's a poor man's Persona 5, I suppose, in a way, but it's a lot shorter. I mean, it uses similar systems, not to the same depth or so, but I suppose at that 20 to 30 hour, that's a more manageable length for a lot of people. It's under the core JRPG thing. Do you have any games then? You've dismissed the Kemco, which totally fair enough. Do you have any JRPGs that are shorter that you do recommend or you do like?
The one I played recently that it was definitely under 15 hours, but I can't remember if it was under 10 hours. Cosmic Star Heroine. I actually really enjoyed that, but I'm also partial because I really enjoyed Cthulhu Saves the World and the other Cthulhu game that the same developer made like on PC a long time ago. And I think because of it comes out, if the story necessitates a shorter length and it still feels as impactful, I think that's okay. Like the Secret of Mana, I also got that plat on the Vita in July.
Yeah.
I put less than 30 hours into it. I loved it. The only reason it took 30 hours was because I had to grind rare drops from enemies with like, less than 6-7% drop rates. And I probably did that for 6 or 7 hours.
I think Mindy has a similar story as well to that. Yeah. See, I mean, that's a whole separate issue, which we won't get into today. But I mean, some of these games are just elongated by the fact of the trophy list, aren't they? I mean, the story themselves is not that long in the JRPG. It's just the additional grinding, if you like, content that we talked about earlier. So, Mindy, you said you had a question there you'd like to throw out.
I do, and it's just kind of a general one. I didn't really think about this until we were talking. So I think I think, Dylan, you'd agree with me on this. For the longest time, if you called something a JRPG, you knew it had certain things in it. And one of them was being a turn-based, a turn-based thing. And then that kind of evolved into, well, it's turn-based or action RPG, right? So then your common thread is made in Japan, right? Mm-hmm. So it has like the dungeon crawling and the level up and the generally, let's umbrella this and say generally just turn-based combat and made in Japan. And when you had something like, a Parasite Eve, it was an exception to the rule, but you would still look at that and say that's a JRPG because it has all these other things in it. But now you look at then you would say, a Western RPG or just RPG, not JRPG, is more action focused, like, your Mass Effects, things like that. And there's a distinct difference. And then, Demon Souls came out. Would you call Demon Souls a JRPG?
That's, yeah.
Like, it's interesting, right? Because it has all those trappings of the Western RPGs, but it is made in Japan. So is the strict definition of a JRPG it is made in Japan, or is it more these other general characteristics of, the you talked about the melodrama, that's in a lot of them, where it's not as much or not as focused on in your Western RPGs, or the type of combat, or how should we define it going on? Because it like I said, it was fairly easy back in the day because almost every game had those tropes in it, and it was just how they played around with it that made them different,
Demon Souls, I would say,
yeah. So like the Souls games are
they have
if you go strictly by the definition of it's an RPG developed in Japan, it's a JRPG. I don't think it is.
It has a lot of Western influences, especially in its monster and character designs. Mm-hmm. When I think of a JRPG, it evokes a certain style of character, what they look like, and that is anime.
Yeah.
Right?
They look very anime. I don't think I've seen Demon Souls in an anime.
No, and that's very much in there.
Well, I probably have. Yeah.
But should the definition of what what constitutes a JRPG at this point, if we're starting, if granted it's only been the Souls series right now and Sekiro, so it's mostly the From stuff. But if this becomes a trend and we see more RPGs like this coming out specifically out of Japan, well, we have to redefine what a JRPG is. This makes me sound like a purist. I just realized. I don't mean it
to. No, I
classicalist.
Yeah. Going by like a strict definition especially of what it says on the tin, Japanese RPG. Therefore, if it's made in Japan and it's an RPG, it is technically, by definition, a Japanese RPG, which would make it a JRPG. So I do, you can't argue with that logic because it is sound and it is a definitive logic. But I think it would be like...
But I think what it goes to the point is that if you didn't know, say you played a game you've never played before, you didn't know the title, you don't know where it was made or whatever else, would you know if it's an RPG or a JRPG? And I think that's what you say, isn't it? It's the style. Yeah. You expect a certain thing that, so there is no reason why they couldn't be made elsewhere in the world. and just in that. I see. For me, Mindy, I think it's more. I think when I play a JRPG, I expect, I hope, and I know there will be randomness. And that's what I will not find in a Western RPG. At some point, some bizarre shit will happen. It's guaranteed. It happened in Dragon Quest XI. Look, it happens all over Persona. There is some, and I'm sure you'd agree, Dylan, there is always some random shit that will happen at some point that you're just not likely to see in a Western RPG at all.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. The Japaneseness of a Japanese RPG, I think the more foreign it is to Western audiences, the more JRPG it is. So say something like, especially with what was it called here, Pocky and Rocky, the Super Nintendo game where you played as the Tanuki and the like Shrine Maiden or Shrine Boy, and you threw magical leaves and as shurikens and stuff like that or like oh my god, what is the name? The Goemon games for Super Nintendo. Those I could say are like Japanese. They're definitely Japanese games because they're so foreign that when they tried to localize it, they were just like, we give up, dude. Like, we'll try. But I don't know. It's something about the more foreign a game is, I feel like the more JRPG it can be if it's a role-playing game. Because if, say, Kingdom Hearts were made exclusively in America, Sora wouldn't look like that. Sora would look more... They wouldn't look as anime. Or they wouldn't make... I mean, that's kind of a hard example because they use Final Fantasy characters, and those Final Fantasy characters are exclusively developed by Japanese developers and do, in fact, look a little anime-ish, or with... is it Uematsu? Is that the artist for? Yeah, that's
Nobumatsu is the
composer.
Composer.
Who is the artist?
Oh no, it wasn't even that. It was Shimomura. Yoko Shimomura did the music for Kingdom Hearts.
Yes,
but like the artist for Final Fantasy, like if you look at his character designs, they are very foreign, even for like a Japanese market. They're very actually.
Oh, Amano.
Yeah, Amano. If you look at his art, it actually invokes like classical Renaissance styles, which is foreign in Japan.
I really love his art. Like there's an art book or two, Yoshitaka Amano. There's a couple art books out. I love them. They're gorgeous.
But they don't look like other JRPGs.
No, they really don't.
Art design. They are very much inspired by like Renaissance and like those style of artists. They're like, the bodies are long and lean. Everything is stretched, really. Their bodies are stretched. They have very distinct looking faces that on a JRPG, if you looked at like, I don't know, Grandia 3 in the character model, it doesn't look like that.
He also side note, he also did the art for Vampire Hunter D. There's your anime time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there you go. But Vampire Hunter D doesn't look like any other anime, really. Mm-hmm. It looks like, you can definitely tell it's made in like the 80s, but that's more the animation and not the style.
So you can see, listeners, we're opening a can. I mean, it's a giant topic. You could really only just scratch the surface. But I suppose what I'd like to highlight coming out of this, and why it was so good to speak to you today, Dylan, about because you play so many JRPGs, is all three of us, I think, are very different gamers. I mean, if you looked at what we play by and large and how we play, no one would assume we're the same in any respect. Yet all three of us love JRPGs in our own way, and I think it just goes to show that and I know a lot of people are scared off by them, whether it be the length or the randomness or the systems or whatever else, the community behind some of them. But just taking a leap into them, because I would even hazard to say, I know for myself, I won't speak for the others, but I think once you've played so many other Western games, it's almost like a treat to play a JRPG. There's just I don't want to say there's more there, or there is, but it's just something, different, whether it be the art, the music, the gameplay, the story, the melodrama, whatever you want to call it. There's something there. So look, whether you're sitting on the fence, whether you want to jump in small, 10, 20, Kemco, whatever, or up, into your massive Star Oceans or Final Fantasies, there's something there to definitely jump into. And I think, as we've heard today from both Mindy and Dylan, they're games that will stay with you for your whole life. You'll play play some games and they'll come and go. But these you'll remember forever. So I hope I didn't speak out of turn. I hope you both feel similar. Well, close enough to similar.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. So look, why don't we just do a hard cut here? Because the listeners, they're expecting it, and we love to do it here, Dylan. So you'll have to tolerate this. I know this sort of thing probably disgusts you, but the spam games of the week. I know Mindy gets excited by this.
Oh, thrilled.
This is the branding, Mindy. You have to show some emotion here, please.
Well, with all these delayed Asian stacks, it feels like we're just talking about the same game again and again and again.
Yeah, well, go on, throw it out. The word sweeper, isn't it?
Yeah,
yeah,
word sweeper by Paugi.
Yeah. Now this is an interesting game because you can actually earn all the trophies except one in 10 minutes. But to finish the game is going to take you 3 hours. So listeners, you need to decide here whether you just want to get all the trophies minus one in 10 minutes or whether you want to commit to 3 hours of a bit of monotony. But I'll leave that up to you. But that's a spam either way.
So where do you guys draw the line for spam games?
Oh.
Because...
Is there a line?
Because I recently played for the second time because it was in my backlog, Murdered Soul Suspect on PS3. And that game, the first time I played it, probably took 7 hours. This game, skipped all the cutscenes because I've already seen them. Found all the stuff because I already knew where most of it was. Probably clocked in at like 4 or 5 hours.
I wouldn't call that a spam game.
But it's just another...
It's bordering what we would call higher quality spam. Yes. I think for me personally,
it has its charms.
Spam is, and of course, it's very easy shorthand. If it's a Sometimes You game or a rack game, it's going to be spam. And it's worth remembering. Spam does not necessarily mean a bad game.
No,
it generally means like a very quick completion or just very, very easy trophies. So like all the Paugi stuff, while it would take you a little longer, it's super easy. You don't need a guide. Like that's a big one for me. Is most people would not need a guide. If you go back and listen to me on Spam of the Week, in previous weeks, I tend to say spam with guide. So a lot of point and clicks will be like that. I think just about every Artifacts Monday game is going to be a spam with a guide.
Okay.
As opposed to just doing it on your own. And just stuff that we think would be easy or quick to complete. It's a very loose definition. It's, some things CJ points out, okay. I might not think is spam. Some things I point out, CJ might not think is spam. There's no hard definition.
Yeah, I just wanted to do good groundwork.
It's very organic. I think the thing is that spam finds you at the time in your life when you're ready to embrace the spam. But until that point, it's a foreign concept. And that's why many gamers look at it and they go, 9 stacks of this, Asian this, rat that, what is this? They're just not at the space yet mentally to embrace the spam. But they will get there, and Mindy and I are just providing a bridge, if you like, to assist their journey to this wonderful, wonderful form of trophy hunting. And with that in mind, Mindy, is there another offering you wanted to throw out? Could you see anything else there?
Got a potential one is this Flowers Are Dead game.
That's a good name.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, it's one of those ones that has kind of obscure trophy descriptions. So you've got things like, go to this place, look at all the pictures. But then you've got things like there's one here called, one of the trophies is Bloody Retro. And it just says Halcyon 44 or 41. It doesn't exactly tell you what you need to do. You got to explore a bit. So I think this is most likely going to be spam with guide. And I did want to point out this really kind of interesting trend that seems to be going on lately.
No.
That one does not have a platinum. For all the people who are talking about how everything has a platinum nowadays, and definitely there are more and more platinums, I'm seeing a lot of non-platinum games being listed lately.
You can bet those people are not going to play it, so it doesn't have a plat.
Right. Well, one of the new definite spam games this week is the Pacific Wings, that flying game port, which has 4 trophies. People are doing it in 20 minutes.
Yeah. Perfect for a turbo controller, that game. I'm not joking. It really is. And there'll be a double stack of that too. What else? Oh, now you'll be excited by this, Mindy. Legend of the Skyfish, the weekly rat offering. And a longer rat offering as well, about 3 hours for the plat for this game too. So it's a cool game.
I'm planning on playing this when we're done recording.
Yeah, so you get to experience the whole thing. It's not a 20-minute run and done in this one. Yeah, so look, that's quite a bit. There's one here that probably isn't spam, but it has me twitching. I'm thinking about re-downloading my Google Translate app. Re-siphoning my rudimentary Japanese. Oh my goodness, and taking a stab at Dead or School. How good is that name? I mean, it's the same thing, Dead and School, Dead or School, but well, actually, if you're in America, you probably can't run those two words together. But, for the rest of us, it's a role-playing RPG hack and slash. That just sounds fantastic. But look, probably not spam.
It has a lot of very interesting trophy art.
It does, doesn't it? Yes.
I do have one note I want to put out because it's not a spam game.
Yes.
But we've talked about it a few times on the podcast. Another site.
Yes.
How that list had not gone the Hong Kong version had not gone live.
Isn't that great?
For like 6
months.
Isn't
that fantastic?
Has finally gone live.
The funny thing about that is earlier this week I had a random person, sorry, I don't remember your name, but you probably don't want me to say. Anyway, reach out to me on True Trophy, so it was really random. And they said, you're the only person that has a trophy in a game that came up 3 months ago. Could you tell us what store you bought that on? And, of course, my answer listener was, well, which game? I mean, there's a few games like that, to be honest, that are still waiting lists from at least 3 months. But it happened to be that game. So isn't that great? Another site. It's a beautiful game too. Beautiful game. You'll enjoy that one, Mindy. So if there's nothing...
I'm looking. Yeah, I definitely want to play it.
If there's nothing else there, we better just do a little bit of housekeeping. The Push2Plat Club. There's a few people have posted here their platinum pictures, so I definitely do want to give you a shout out. Just scrolling through to see where we're up to, and I think we're up to. We did the Panther Hunter with you, Mindy, didn't we? And we did Follies 19. So we've got. We've got this Zad. Now I'm going to butcher your name, sir, so I apologize. Although I understand English may be your second language. Unfortunately, it's my first language, but I'm still going to butcher this. It's Zador VP. Zador VP. I apologize profusely.
Oh, he's a friend of mine.
Yes, good. Do you know how to say his name?
I actually know his name, so I just call him by that.
Oh, okay.
So I haven't called him by his. I think it's Zador. I know it's named after a character in something he wrote.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think it's Zador.
Excellent. Yeah, and he wanted to throw out his votes for hidden gem games that are there: Rogue Galaxy, Tomba 1+2, and Anna Chronox. I think Chronox. I don't know this game, but anyway. So thank you for that. That's something we can check out. I'm sure Mindy knows all three of those, and will provide a written dissertation on her views on those games in due course to you, sir. Platinum 200 to the Seagull, Mass Effect 2 with the DLC. That's just showing off, sir. And what else do we have here? Zador VP again with number 428, the Revenant Saga. Oh, that's quite topical for today. Well done. Teresa, who would have thought this could happen? A rat game you have to finish for the plat in 2019. Lovely. And that's actually in reference to that new one there, the Skyfish, Mindy. So you can let us know what that's like next week. And then 516, Steven Universe. That screen cap is bad. So here's a prettier trophy picture. Oh, and it's a lovely picture too, Mindy. Thank you for including that with us. And then I got one as well that I'm going to throw out, the Bear With Me, which I thought was hilarious. And thank you, as always, Mindy, for the wonderful guide on that one. So, listeners, just before we wrap up and we close out, I also just wanted to address, we've had a couple of questions about how Mr. Folly is. I can assure you he's doing wonderfully well. He is still streaming. He's just a bit busy with live things. We do hope that he will come back at some point, and I'm sure that he will. But if you are interested in hearing or seeing more of his content, he is streaming on Twitch, I believe, Tuesdays and Sundays. And Dylan, you're going to stream with him very soon, The Man of Medan. This is correct?
Yeah, we will have already streamed one episode by the time this goes live.
Excellent.
But I imagine it'll be at least 2 weeks, maybe 3. We'll be streaming on Sundays, 3 p.m. his time, which is GMT, so 8 p.m. my time, EST, and then I don't know anymore because I only need to learn those two for our Discord. So
as long as you turn up, and then it's all good. I like it. Well, look, I want to thank you, Dylan.
And hopefully he'll come back with a Folly's Corner about Man and Medan, because I want to hear about it.
Yes.
And it wasn't. I think because he gave us several in a row. It was never meant to be a weekly thing. It was just whenever he had the time to play something and record his thoughts on it and send it in. So at least I don't know what kind of message you're getting, CJ, but I got a couple messages like, what happened to your new weekly thing? Like, that was fun. It was something that you guys didn't talk about. And it's just whenever he had the time to do it. And so I just want to make, he's fine. I was talking to him earlier tonight. He's good.
Excellent.
Yeah.
No, I apologize for that, listeners. Yes, he is still around. I have not done away with him yet. So we shall leave it there. Now, Dylan, I wanted to thank you for joining us today. I know. I mean, from doing your own podcast, I know what a time commitment it is. So I do really appreciate it today. And it's been really fun for us to talk JRPGs. I hope it's been mildly entertaining for you as well.
Oh, it's been great. Thank you for having me on. It's always fun to be on someone else's podcast.
It is, isn't it? You can relax.
Yeah, I can relax a little bit. I'm not subconsciously thinking, how am I going to edit this? So thank you for the breather for a moment. I've only actually...
Don't remind him that he does all the editing. Don't remind him.
I've actually been on this podcast. I've only been a guest on this podcast, and when Resident Daryl, who you had on recently, had his Loot Bros podcast, me and Zach were guests on that very early on in our PlatCast, I guess, career.
Yes,
would be the word you would use there. So it's interesting to be on more podcasts. I really enjoy podcasting. I enjoy the conversation aspect of it.
And they're all a little bit different as well. So it is interesting. I agree. Yeah. And look,
I enjoy the conversation, but not the technical, not all the technical stuff.
Yeah. And I think it is fun to be a guest for a while as well. Yeah, when you host your own stuff, it just shows you a different side, and you can enjoy it. So where can we find you, Dylan, if we're looking for you?
If you're looking anywhere on the internet, you can typically just type in Chernobylninja, and you will find my face or a drawing of me or some sort of indication that it is in fact me. Twitter, I'm typically pretty active on Twitter. We have our own Discord that I guess I can send you the link, or you can make
we'll put it in the thing if you
add
like.
link, and you can put it if you want to. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm very active on the Discord. I also stream on twitch.tv/Chernobylninja. Like I said, I'll be streaming with Afraid of the Folly on Sundays while we play Man of Medan. Other than that, it's kind of sporadic. I am starting something on the 3rd, so I'm not sure when if this comes out Monday or Tuesday. I don't want to spoil it for anybody yet, but it is going to be a game that I have ragged on before in the past, and I want to give it. I'm going to do a bunch of redemption streams to see if it's still as bad after a remaster as it was when I played it when I was young.
Oh, well, before you said remaster, I was just convinced it was going to be Ride to Hell Retribution.
Oh, no.
You found the long-lost copy of Knack 3. Congratulations, sir. Oh. Now, Mindy, where can we find you if we're looking for you?
I'm on Twitter @TheMindIsACity, PlayStationTrophies.org. I'm on the guide team. If you want to learn how to write a trophy guide, hit me up. I will help you. Also, I have a coffee page, ko-fi.com/TheMindIsACity. It's like a Patreon, but you don't subscribe to anything. It's just a tip jar to say thank you for my guide writing, and it funds so I can buy games to write guides for. Because I don't get a whole lot of dev codes.
Perfect. And luckily I don't either. Could you imagine? It's already out of control as it is. So, listeners, if you found us, you found us. You don't really need to know this, so it is a bit redundant, but, look, we have to say it because I don't know why. The rules of podcasting. The show is available on SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, iTunes Podcasts, and all good podcast providers. We do have a Twitter if you'd like to reach out to us. It's @push2plat, push2plat. Please feel free to write us a message, a concern, question, or whatever you like. We're pretty full up. We finally got a little organized, and we looked at the guest roster for the rest of the year. We're pretty full up, but if you think you'd be interested in being a guest, please also feel free to reach out to us via DM or email at push2plat@gmail.com, and we'll definitely love to have a chat with you. So with that, I think we can wrap up today. happy trophy hunting. Good luck. Next week it all begins, if it hasn't already, for you with the new game Crush. But what a wonderful time to be gaming. May the platinums be good, the trophies kind, the bronze trophies even kinder. I'll catch you next week. Thank you, Dylan, and thank you, Mindy.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Bye.